Hello, I'm Clara, 58 years old. I was standing in line at the grocery store when I found out. A neighbor, someone who never really liked me, leaned in with that smug, rehearsed smile and said, "Big dinner at your sister's place, huh? Must be exciting. First Christmas since your mom passed." I blinked. "What dinner?" She paused, pretending to be surprised. "Oh, you didn't know?" I didn't. That night, I called my brother. He let it ring. My sister? Straight to voicemail. No one invited me. Not one word. Not even a text. And this wasn't just any Christmas. It was the first one since Mom died. The first one where we were supposed to be together. Instead, I was sitting alone in a house full of memories that didn't seem to want me anymore. Divorced for 10 years, 2 adult kids who live overseas and barely call. I run a small bookkeeping business out of my kitchen. And until recently, I thought I was still part of my family. Turns out, grief rewrites the rules. Or maybe it reveals the ones people were already playing by. Mom passed in March. Cancer. Quick. Cruel. After she was gone, everything changed. Suddenly, my younger sister, Natalie, was the heart of the family. My brother James, who never even showed up for chemo sessions, became the wise older one. And me? I was the overbearing one, the bitter one, the one who makes things difficult. I always thought I held us together. Apparently, I was just in the way. 3 days before Christmas, I drove past Mom's old house, our house growing up. Lights twinkled on the porch. A tall tree blinked through the window. Laughter poured out onto the street like smoke. They were already inside, celebrating, without me. The same house we all grew up in. The same house Mom left to Natalie in her will, for reasons she never explained. I pulled over. I sat there, watching them move inside like a stranger looking into someone else's life. And something inside me broke. Or maybe something snapped into place. I remembered a verse Mom once quoted when I was young and crying in the dark. "The stone which the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." That night, I stopped being the rejected. I decided I'd be the cornerstone. 2 days later, I walked into the local bank where I knew the manager personally. He used to be my client once. I asked about the mortgage on that house. It was still in Natalie's name, and she was behind on payments. Luxury tastes, and no job will do that. I asked for numbers, got the full picture. Then I made a call. I had savings, investments, a credit score polished like glass, years of living frugally. That night, I bought the house my family was celebrating in, with cash. They didn't know. Not yet. But they would. Soon. The house was older now, but I could still trace my childhood in the corners. The chipped tile by the back door. I broke that running in with muddy shoes when I was 7. The dent in the kitchen cabinet. Mom slammed it once during an argument with Dad. The worn spot on the living room rug. That's where she used to sit every morning, reading her Bible with coffee in hand. I walked through it alone, the keys still warm in my pocket. The silence felt strange, not peaceful, not yet. It was like the house was holding its breath. I hadn't told them. I wanted to see their faces in person. Natalie was always the favorite growing up. Golden hair, soft voice, tears on cue. She knew how to make you feel guilty just by looking at you. But she was careless, always chasing the next new thing, luxury handbags, spiritual retreats, a boyfriend who ran off with her credit cards. James, older by 5 years, was cold, calculated. He worked in finance, lived across town with a perfectly manicured lawn, and a wife who called me dear, like it was a slur. He pretended to be the adult in every room, but never stepped in unless there was something to gain. And me? I stayed. Through the divorces, through Mom's illness, through every late-night call and hospital visit. But that didn't matter anymore, because families aren't about who stayed. They're about who gets invited back. I wasn't surprised when Natalie couldn't keep up the mortgage. What shocked me was how long she hid it. Apparently, she'd taken a loan against the house for business opportunities. Jewelry, importing, she said once. Or maybe it was coaching for female entrepreneurs. She never stuck to anything but drama. That morning, I visited the elderly couple across the street, the Millers. Mr. Miller had been my dad's best friend. He looked older, frailer, but his voice still boomed like a choir. "Clara?" he said, blinking through thick glasses. "I thought you moved out west." I smiled. "Not anymore. I'm back, actually. I own the house now." He stared. I watched it register. "You bought it? From Natalie?" I nodded. "Behind on payments. It was going to foreclosure. I made an offer." Mrs. Miller gasped. "Does she know?" "Not yet." She looked like she wanted to say something, then simply muttered, "God help us all." Later that day, I went to the local market, the one where gossip grows faster than tomatoes. I made sure to talk, just enough, loud enough. By sunset, they all knew. Natalie called first. I didn't pick up. Then came the message. "You're unbelievable. Buying the house just to humiliate me? This is sick, Clara." James followed up. "You've made your point. Now sell it back." Sell it back? Like I was holding something that rightfully belonged to them. But that's the thing. It didn't. It was mine now, legally, emotionally, spiritually. That night, I stood on the back porch where Mom used to hang laundry and whispered, "I'm not invisible anymore." And for the first time in years, I believed it. A week after New Year's, Natalie moved into the guest room. She didn't ask. I didn't offer. It just happened. I came home from work one evening and found her suitcase by the door. "I didn't know where else to go," she whispered. I nodded once. "Then you're in the right place." We didn't talk much that first week. We moved around each other like two shadows, trying not to cast darkness. But one night, over late coffee, she said, "I hated that you bought the house." I looked at her. "I know. I felt like you took something from me, but I think what hurts more is that I gave it away first." There was something honest in her voice, something broken and brave. I didn't respond with words. I just poured her more coffee. Later that week, she found Mom's old journal in the attic. She brought it down, her fingers trembling as she held it out to me. "I didn't know she kept one," she whispered. We sat together, turning pages. Most entries were short. Notes, prayers, grocery lists mixed with fears, memories scribbled in the margins. Then we found one written a month before she died. "I pray my daughters remember love above pride, that they rebuild what I can't hold together anymore. The house is just wood and brick. What matters is what fills it." Natalie broke into tears. I held her. She didn't say sorry. She didn't have to. Because in that moment, I saw it. The real enemy had never been her. It was the silence, the unspoken things, the pride, the pretending. That journal entry didn't fix everything, but it shifted something inside both of us. It was no longer my house. It was home. Again. James didn't believe it when I told him Natalie was living with me. "You?" he said. "Under the same roof?" I could hear the disbelief in his voice. "She's not who she was," I replied. He hesitated. "Are you sure?" "No," I said, "but I'm giving her space to try." James eventually came by. Reluctantly, for Sunday lunch, he stepped in cautiously, like the house might explode. Natalie met him at the door with a dish towel in her hand and cinnamon on her cheek. He stared. She didn't flinch. "I'm not asking you to trust me," she said. "I'm asking you to sit down." We all ate in silence at first, the same table where Mom used to serve us pot roast and say grace, even when Dad had already started eating. Then James surprised us. He reached for the Bible in the center of the table, Mom's Bible. "Do you remember," he said, "how she used to read from Psalm 133 every time we fought?" I smiled. "Yes, and we always rolled our eyes." He opened the Bible, clearing his throat. "Behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity." Natalie closed her eyes, her lips trembling. "I never thought we'd sit here again," she whispered. "I didn't either," I said. After lunch, James stayed behind to help wash dishes, something he hadn't done since we were kids. As we stood at the sink, he looked at me and said, "You did the right thing, even if it hurt." I looked out the window, watching Natalie hang fresh curtains on the porch. "I just wanted it to matter," I whispered. "It does," he replied. Later that week, he sent me an email, a scanned copy of a savings bond. Mom had in my name, forgotten, untouched, dated years ago. "She never forgot you," he wrote. That night, I cried, not from sadness, from something deeper, healing. Christmas morning came like a quiet storm. I was already up before dawn, baking cinnamon rolls, Mom's recipe, the one she used every year. The smell filled the house with memories, sweet ones, painful ones. At 8 a.m., they showed up. First James, in a dark coat and eyes colder than the frost on his windshield. Then Natalie, wrapped in a red wool scarf that probably cost more than her rent. I opened the door before they knocked. They didn't smile. Neither did I. Natalie stepped forward, fury burning in her voice. "You bought this house to spite me." I looked at her calmly. "I bought it because I could. You were losing it." James interrupted. "You could have talked to us first." I laughed, sharp, dry. "Like you talked to me before planning Christmas without me?" James's jaw tightened. "That wasn't about you." "No," I said, crossing my arms. "It never is, until I do something about it." Natalie walked in without asking, looked around like she owned the walls. "This isn't over." "It's already over," I replied. "The paperwork's done. You lost the house. I bought it. You want to talk? Sit." She didn't sit. Instead, she glared. Then she pointed at the table where I'd placed a Bible, Mom's Bible. "You think owning this place makes you right? Mom left it to me, and you nearly let it go to foreclosure. She trusted me. She didn't know you." James stepped in. "Enough. We can fix this. Clara, what do you want? Money? Control?" "I want to stop being treated like a ghost." Silence. Long, heavy silence. I let them feel it. Then I said, softly, "You shut me out of Christmas." So I brought it back to where it belonged. "If you want to join me, there's food on the table. If not, the door's still open." Natalie scoffed. "You're pathetic," she stormed out. James looked at me, disappointment on his face, but not in me. I think for the first time he was seeing things clearly. "She's not well," he said. "I know." "I'm sorry," I nodded. But I didn't say it back. He left, and I was alone again. But it felt different this time. I wasn't excluded. I had chosen this, and I would choose it again. I didn't hear from either of them for days. The house was quiet again, but this time, I wasn't avoiding the silence. I was using it. I painted the kitchen cabinets. I scrubbed the baseboards. I reorganized Mom's old china cabinet, piece by piece, until it gleamed. Each thing I touched, I reclaimed. One afternoon, a letter arrived. Unmarked envelope, no return address. Inside was a photocopy of the will, highlighted in yellow. To my daughter Natalie, I leave the house at 47 Birch Lane with the trust that she will preserve it as a place of family. Below, scribbled in pencil, she failed. You didn't. Okay? No signature. My hands trembled. I wasn't sure if it was James or someone else, but it didn't matter. It was true. Natalie had used the house. I was restoring it. Still, the guilt crept in at night when the walls echoed with memories. Was I being petty? Was I turning into the bitter woman they accused me of being? But then, I'd remember Mom's words. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. I wasn't hungry for revenge. I was hungry for something right. Later that week, James called again. I've been thinking, he said. Natalie needs help. I'm not a therapist. Number. But you're the only one she listens to when she's not trying to win. I chuckled. That's rare. He paused. She's losing her apartment. Bad debts. She won't tell me everything, but it's bad. I closed my eyes. I could have said it wasn't my problem, but it was. She was still my sister. I'll think about it. The next morning, I drove to her apartment. She didn't open the door at first, but I waited. 10 minutes, then 20. Finally, she cracked it open. Her eyes were swollen, her voice brittle. What do you want? I didn't come to fight. Silence. Then she stepped aside. Inside was chaos. Boxes, unopened mail, clothes everywhere. The smell of something burnt. Her life. Unraveling. I looked at her and didn't see the enemy anymore. I saw the little girl who used to braid my hair while humming Christmas songs. You don't have to be alone, I said quietly. She broke down, right there on the floor, and I sat with her. No judgment, no pride, just two sisters, lost in the same grief, finally remembering they were made of the same blood. Weeks turned into months, and somehow we found a rhythm. Natalie started working at the local flower shop, part-time, but steady. She woke up early, made her bed, even started a small garden in the backyard. I need to watch something grow, she told me once, kneeling in the dirt. Something that depends on me. I understood more than I said. As for me, I started taking real days off, something I hadn't done in years. I read books by the fireplace, cooked slow meals, let myself rest. But most of all, I started saying yes. Yes to life, yes to community, yes to forgiveness. James began coming by more often, bringing his wife, even offering to repaint the garage. He still had that stiff posture, that calculating air. But he laughed more now. And when he looked at us, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Pride and peace. One Saturday, the three of us stood on the front lawn, watching neighborhood kids run down the street. The tree outside had started to bloom again, soft pink blossoms brushing the windows. I thought we were done, James said softly. We were, Natalie replied, but Grace doesn't care about done. We looked at each other, stunned by her words. I reached over and touched her arm. Mom would have loved to hear you say that. She probably did, Natalie smiled. That night, after dinner, I sat alone on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars, and I whispered a prayer, not asking for anything, just saying, "Thank you for the house, for the second chances, for the storm that brought us back to each other." Spring arrived with its usual quiet magic. The dogwoods bloomed, the air softened, and for the first time in years, the house felt alive, not just with movement, but with meaning. Natalie decorated the porch with wind chimes and herbs in small clay pots. James installed a new mailbox and even helped me digitize old family photos. I found a picture of Mom holding all three of us as children. We looked so unaware of what life would one day demand of us. One Sunday, the pastor from our childhood church dropped by. He had heard, of course. Everyone had. He stepped into the living room, took one long look around, and smiled. "You brought it back?" he said. I nodded, one piece at a time. He sat, opened his Bible, and shared a short passage that clung to my heart like honey. "And the Lord restored the fortunes of Job when he had prayed for his friends." He closed the book, looked me in the eye. "You prayed, and you forgave. That's why it feels like home again." That night, I made a decision. Something bold, something terrifying. I called a real estate agent, not to sell, to buy, the house next door. Vacant, neglected, full of potential. I wanted Natalie to have it, to rebuild something on her own, to grow roots, not just share mine. When I told her, she stood frozen in the kitchen. "You're buying a house. For me?" "No," I said. "I'm starting it. You're going to finish it." Her eyes filled with tears. "Why would you do this?" I placed my hand over hers. Because when God gives you more than you lost, you don't hoard it. You share it. The following Christmas arrived with a different kind of anticipation. No bitterness, no silence. Just a house filled with light, laughter, and people who had learned how to begin again. Natalie's new home was still under renovation, but she was glowing. More herself than I'd ever seen. She brought over a cranberry tart and a candle she made herself. James arrived with his wife, 2 casseroles, and a loud apology for last year. We set the table together. No one took charge. No one competed. We simply coexisted in peace. As we sat down, I reached for Mom's Bible. I opened it slowly, the way she used to, and said, "I know we've all been through it. Loss, betrayal, silence. But this house, this moment, is proof that even broken things can be made whole." James nodded. Natalie wiped her eyes. Then I read aloud, voice trembling. "Behold, I am making all things new." No one spoke for a while. We didn't need to. The warmth said enough. The cinnamon rolls came out of the oven just as the snow started to fall. Gentle flakes, like blessings, from a sky that remembered every prayer we'd whispered in our loneliest nights. Natalie looked at me and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on us." I squeezed her hand. "Thank you for coming back." That night, after everyone had gone, I stood in the doorway of the house I once felt exiled from. I looked around and realized it wasn't about ownership. It was about restoration. And in that sacred silence, I finally felt the thing I'd longed for since the very beginning. Peace. The years moved on, as they always do. Natalie eventually bought the house next door, fully in her name. She painted it a soft yellow and filled it with mismatched furniture, flowers, and joy. She hosted book clubs, made soaps, and taught neighborhood girls how to plant basil. James retired early. He volunteers now, reading to kids at the library, building benches at the community park. We meet every other Sunday for coffee. No more tension, no more pretending. And me? I still live in Mom's house, the house that tried to break me, the house that saved me instead. I've hosted 5 Christmases since that first one. Every year, we open with a verse from Mom's Bible. Every year, someone cries. Every year, we remind ourselves that family isn't about perfect harmony. It's about showing up again after the music stops. One morning, I stood by the window, coffee in hand, and watched Natalie teaching her little neighbor how to ride a bike. The girl fell. Natalie helped her up. No scolding, just a smile. I whispered, "That's what love looks like. Not control, not revenge, just presence, just grace." And as I watched the wind blow through the chimes on the porch, I realized the best thing I ever did wasn't buying the house. It was staying inside it long enough to see what it could become. Because sometimes the place where you were left behind becomes the place you begin again.